There hasn't been a cave yet, but it looks like there might be. I want to take you back, folks. I warned everybody about the possibility of this. None of this catches me off guard or by surprise. We're going to go back to March 27th on this program. Listen.
Who are we talking about? We're talking about the people that are trying to criminalize Donald Trump. We're talking about the people that are trying to impeach him. We're talking about people who are trying via innuendo and leak and media assassination. We're dealing with people that are trying to destroy Donald Trump, and his press secretary just signaled that they are serious about reaching out to these people to try to get certain things done legislatively, like infrastructure or tax reform. I can't see the Democrats working with Trump on tax reform unless the rich get soaked. The thing about this that should be worrisome is that if this alliance happens, if they're not bluffing, if they're serious, and if my scenario gets close, it's not going to be the Democrats adopting Trump's agenda. It's going to be the other way around.
That was back on March 27th. You have to go back, well, you can say that far back or not that far, whatever, March. And Trump was already getting frustrated with the fact that Mitch and Paul were stonewalling him. And he's already talking about working with the Democrats, Chuck and Nancy, back in March. And as I said, if he does that, it's going to be Chuck and Nancy's agenda and not his. So the concern that people have, I can understand it. We'll be back. Don't go away. And here is an update. This comes from the UK Daily Mail. By the way, greetings, folks, and welcome. It's the Rush Limbaugh program and the EIB network. I'm sure you know that. My voice among the most recognizable in the world. I didn't think it was necessary to tell you what you already knew. But here's the phone number, 800-282-2882. Daily Mail update. Trump gets off the plane on the tarmac in Florida, and he says that he expects funding for his border wall to pass when he's ready for it, or Republicans will become the obstructionists in Congress. He said, ultimately, we have to have the wall. If we don't have the wall, we are doing nothing. That's what Trump is reported to have said from the tarmac when he landed in Florida this morning. The president also denied that he was giving amnesty to illegal immigrants as part of an agreement that he's working on with Chuck and Nancy. He said, we're not looking at citizenship. We're not looking at amnesty. We're looking at allowing people to stay here. We're working with everybody. Republican, we're working with Democrat, but we're not talking citizenship. Look, folks, everybody knows we're not going to kick these dreamers out of the country. I know that a lot of people think that we should have no mercy here, and mercy is the wrong word. That if we're going to have border security, we're border security. If you're illegal and you're here illegal, you've got to go back and then try to get back in legally. I understand that. But the reality is these are people that campaign for votes, and nobody wants to be associated with pictures that would certainly exist, even if they were fake. And they most likely would be. You know, of a bunch of... Can you imagine 150 pictures of that federal agent storming the home in Florida to kidnap Elian Gonzalez, send him back to Cuba? You remember that? A lot of people thought that agent should have shut up, left Janet Reno, should have left that kid there instead of sending him back to a communist country. What are we doing? We're sending a kid. Remember that reaction? Well, imagine if you see a picture after picture, video of that, with a bunch of little kids, fully armed and body armor, federal agents grabbing 5-year-olds and 15-year-olds and throwing them in a paddy wagon and driving them to the airport and put on a C-130 for parts of... Nobody wants to be associated with that. The way to do this is what I suggested the other day. If you're going to allow them to stay, if you're going to make this exception, you get the funding for the wall in it, or there's no deal. And now you add something else. These people being allowed to stay can't register to vote for 15 or 20 or whatever. Take the incentive away from the Democrats to want, and the Republicans too, because they want them for different reasons. They want them for cheap labor. The Democrats want them for voters. Well, Republicans would like that too. But you put in a proviso. We can do what we want here, right? Chuck and Nancy are not running this show. They better not be running it. That was my point that I made in the soundbite that I played for. This is not Chuck and Nancy's show. Chuck and Nancy's party lost. Chuck and Nancy's party haven't won an election that counts other than Obama's presidencies in 2008 and 2012. Every other election the Democrats have been running with national House, Senate, they're losing. There's no way they get to run this show. But remember, the media is desperate to split Trump's supporters away from him. They are that's the only thing they got. Had a story yesterday. They've tried everything. It's not working. They don't understand it. And even the Democrat agenda, free tuition, not working. You know why that's not working? A lot of people think, whoa, that was seemed to be a magnet. I think anybody liberal would support that. Well, the problem is that there's a lot of Democrats with student debt, college loan debt. There's a lot of parents who were not told their tuition is going to be free. So now all of a sudden, how do you grandfather that? How do you go back and tell people that have massive student loan debt that, hey, guess what? People going to college now are going to get free tuition, and they're going to have to. What about me? Why won't you get rid of my debt? Well, we can't do that. We don't have the money. Anyway, it's not supported. So the Democrats do not have their key agenda items do not have massive public support, and their attempts to destroy Trump have failed, all of them. So all they can do now, the only thing they've got is to split Trump's base away from Trump, and that's what all of this today is. Every bit of that is splitting. They want you to think Trump has sold you out and thrown you under the bus. They want you to think that Trump has given away his mandate in exchange for doing deals. They want you to believe that Trump loves deals. He loves action, and he's been frustrated because the Republicans won't do anything. So he's going over on the Democrat side. He's doing deals. And in order to do that, the Democrats are running the show. The media wants you to believe that Trump is acquiescing to the Democrat agenda just so he can do deals and just so there can be something done. Now, the White House has been as clear as they can be today that there is not an agreement on the wall, and Pelosi, Chuck, and Nancy had to tweet that that's correct. So they are the ones backtracking today, not Trump and Sarah Huckabee Sanders. But the very fact that this has been reported with all of this energy, and you go back to the point, the first element of a story that people hear, they believe it, whether it's right or wrong. And so this is going to have a lasting impact. Now, as I say, there's some updates. Trump said if we don't, this is on the tarmac in Florida, after all this brouhaha in Washington, lands in Florida, if we don't have the wall, we're doing nothing. Trump says there will eventually be a border wall, and there won't be amnesty for dreamers. But they're going to be allowed to stay. People, whoa, wait a minute now. If you're letting them stay, how is that not amnesty? Well, they're not going to be made automatic citizens. Fine. Okay, if that's true, then they can't vote either. And for those of you shouting at me, Rush, we're talking about children. Not all of them are children anymore. We're talking about 800,000 people. Again, Trump reiterated that he expects funding for the border wall to pass when he's ready for it. Ultimately, we have to have the wall. If we don't have the wall, we are doing nothing. Now, that's the latest. Earlier, this is AlanBWest.com website. Trump White House issue major clarification in Dreamer deal. And there's a pull quote from the story. Schumer's communications director tweeted in response to the denial by Sarah Huckabee Sanders saying the president made clear he would continue pushing the wall, not just as part of this agreement. So Chuck and Nancy are backtracking a little bit here. But look, they know what they're doing. They got their first message out that Trump caved. Trump says the wall's off the table. Trump's going to do it later. We're going to have amnesty. That's out there. That's what people think now. And it's going to take a lot of repetition to correct this. And plus, the first impression is always made. I mean, it's the first imprint. It's almost impossible to release it. Audio soundbite number 2. This is another flashback. January 3rd, CNN. Jake Tapper had Chuck U. Schumer on the program with Dana Bash, who said, "You expected to be the Senate Majority Leader working with President Hillary Clinton." By the way, have you seen this inane report from CNN extolling Hillary Clinton's breathing talent? That she has this unique ability to breathe through one nostril at a time? It's obviously because she's got some problems. She's sitting there going, Hillary's not healthy. Leave it at that. And so to cover, she's so much smarter than the rest of us. She's so much more talented than the rest. She has perfected one nostril breathing. I'm serious. Anyway, Dana Bash says, "You expected to be the majority leader working with Hillary Clinton. Now you find yourself the leader of the opposition, and Trump's in the White House." Remember this, January 3rd, just before Trump's been inaugurated. How will you walk that fine line between when to work with Trump and when not to?
The only way we're going to work with him is if he moves completely in our direction and abandons his Republican colleagues.
January 3rd, before Trump's even inaugurated. And I remember him saying this. That's why it's on the soundbite roster. The only way we're going to work with him, exactly what I said back in March. 3 months after 2.5 months after Chuck Hughes said this. Now, here's Chuck Hughes. This is after the denial by Sarah Huckabee Sanders and after Trump clarified, no, there's no deal here and the wall's not gone. Here is Chuck Hughes Schumer on the floor of the United States Senate.
We all agreed on a framework to pass DACA protections and additional border security measures excluding the wall. We agreed that the president would support enshrining the DACA protections into law. What remains to be negotiated are the details of border security with a mutual goal of finalizing all the details as soon as possible. While both sides agreed that the wall would not be any part of this agreement, the president made clear he intends to pursue it at a later time, and we made clear that we would continue to oppose it. If you listen to the president's comments this morning, Director Mulvaney's comments this morning, it is clear that what Leader Pelosi and I put out last night was exactly accurate. We're not for the wall. We'll never be for the wall.
Yeah, but what you put out's not exactly accurate. We got Mulvaney here. We're prepared. We're ready to go, Chuck Hughes, but we have to take a brief time out. Okay, so Chuck Hughes Schumer, in a statement on the floor of the Senate, we all agreed on a framework, passed DACA protections, additional border security measures, excluding the wall. We agreed the president would support enshrining DACA protection into law. What remains to be negotiated? He kind of said that. What remains to be negotiated? He just glossed over that. Are the details of border security with a mutual goal of finalizing as soon as possible. They didn't finalize anything, folks. And Chuck Hughes confirms it on the floor of the Senate. What remains to be negotiated? While both sides agreed the wall would not be any part of this agreement, the president made clear he intends to pursue it at a later time. We hate it. We're not going to be supported ever. The president wants it. And then he said Mulvaney's comments this morning, if you listen to the president's and Mulvaney's comments, it's clear that what Nancy and I put out last night was accurate. Okay, here is Mulvaney's on Squawk Box at CNBC. And the question, people are calling him Amnesty Don this morning. Does the reaction of the political base here affect what's going to happen in the White House? Did we get close to a deal and now we're pulling away because of that?
I don't think the criticism is fair. I think the criticism is assuming that the president is giving up on something. He's not. I think if you do end up seeing some type of agreement regarding DACA and this massive but not wall border security, talking about technology and people, all the things that we need to stop drugs and illegals from coming across the border, border. If that does become the framework for an agreement, that does not mean the president is giving up on his priorities. He's made it very, very clear to me that the wall is a top priority for him in all budget negotiations and will continue to be.
So now you gather to break bread in the Blue Room at the White House. What's the mood there? Number
I think
17.
what you saw last night was a group of professional deal makers. I saw the president do this on a couple of times. When the conversation started to move to the things that we disagreed on, he moved it back to the things that we could agree on. I think that's the way you get deals done, right? You and I might disagree 80% of the time, but that still gives us 20% opportunity to try and work something out. The mood was cordial. There was pushback on issues. There was very polite, gentlemanly, and ladylike pushback on issues on both sides. Mr. Schumer continues to push this idea of this $30 billion tunnel under the Hudson River that the president very politely pushed back on. But I thought it was cordial and productive. The president is not giving up on the wall, and he's certainly not giving up on border security.
Mulvaney says that Trump was deal-making, hasn't given up on the wall. Do with that what you will, folks, but that's the word. Schumer's communication director tweeted in response to the denial by Huckabee Sanders, saying the president made clear he would continue pushing the wall, just not part of this agreement. That's not what they were saying last night and this morning. They wanted you to believe that they had gotten rid of the wall. They are the ones backtracking today. But it's still a dicey situation. I'm not denying that. Back in a second, folks. The views expressed by the host on this program are riveting the nation and permeating and tickling the world. A household name in all four corners of the world, I am Rush Limbaugh, America's real anchorman, America's truth detector, and the doctor of democracy. All here, all combined in one harmless, lovable little fuzzball bundle. At a secret, secure, confined location on the left coast. Happy to have you here. The telephone number is 800-282-2882. Let me look at the call roster up here. We have some calls that people want to weigh in on this. And I always try to get calls in on the first hour, but I was not able to squeeze any in. And people, I want to hear what you think. I want to hear what you Trumpers think of all this. Because I'm going to tell you, folks, I don't want to throw any names around out there, but there were famous big name, Fox News people that are big-time Trumpers who were tweeting that it's all over, that Trump sacked everybody, that Trump's played everybody, that Trump screwed us, that Trump's let... And that was part of my wake-up call today. So I had to hustle in here and try to make sense of everything that did indeed happen. It was continuing to unfold. Even after I got here. So that's what the first hour was an attempt to put all of this in perspective and before rendering an opinion on it. Because I'm just telling, I don't trust the drive-bys, and I'm continually amazed at the number of people who do, despite knowing what their mantras are, despite knowing what their objective is. There isn't a Trumpist around who does not know that the media is trying to separate Trump supporters from Trump. And judging by some of the tweets I saw today, it's not hard for the media to do that. And psychologically, look, Republicans are like battered... Should I even mention that? My Lord. I was going to say, battered spouses. Because, it goes both ways. Like battered spouses. It's inexplicable. But Republicans have just been savaged and let down and double-crossed and lied to so many times that it is a political expectation that it's going to happen again. Now, there are many extreme wacko leftists who think the same about their bunch. There's a story today about liberals in San Francisco. Now, common sense would say, based on the way the drive-bys have been covering it, common sense would say that the left would be livid with Chuck and Nancy because this guy, Trump, is a pig. This guy Billy Bush tape. This guy is a despicable human being. This guy is low-rent scum. They hate him. And so you would think that if Chuck and Nancy even go in the same room and have dinner. It'd be grounds for kicking them out of the party. But no. The LA Times has a story today that liberals in San Francisco are loving this. They think it's great because they believed what everybody apparently believed early today, that Trump had caved and that Chuck and Nancy had rolled Trump. And as long as they think that happens, I guess they'll be cool with it. So the only group of people feeling betrayal today or did feel betrayal are Trump supporters. Now, Chuck Schumer, I saw a story at the Week, the WEEK. It's a website. And the headline, Chuck Schumer caught on hot mic basking in Trump's adulation. I said, what is this? So I read it. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer took to the Senate floor today, this morning actually, to discuss Equifax's massive security breach, the physical limitations of the border wall, and his supposed agreement with Trump, struck alongside Nancy. But before he officially took to the floor, Schumer bounded into the Senate chamber just after a speech by Mitch McConnell and took a minute to talk to a colleague. Sorry, just got here. Anything new Schumer can be heard saying. And then he was heard saying, he likes us. He likes me anyway, Schumer said with a chuckle. Well, we have that. Schumer walking into the Senate, talking to a colleague, bragging about how Trump likes him. And here is what that sounded like.
He likes us. He likes me anyway. What we said was exactly accurate. Here's what I told him. I said, Mr. President, you're much better off if you can sometimes step right and sometimes step left. If you have to step just in one direction, you're boxed. He gets that.
Were you able to hear that? Okay, so this is Chuck. It's it's a hot mic. It's like when Obama was caught telling Dmitry Medvedev, tell Vlad to be patient. We'll get rid of our nukes after I win re-election, and I'll have more flexibility. That was in 2012, right before the election. Same situation here. There's a hot mic down there on the Senate floor. Chuck Hughes said, he likes us. He likes me anyway. And what we said was exactly accurate. Here's what I told him. I said, Mr. President, you're much better off if you can sometimes step right, sometimes step left. If you have to step just in one direction, you're boxed. He gets that. So one takeaway from this is that Chuck felt it necessary to tell his colleague that what we said was true, which means there might have been some doubt. Which means that people on Chuck's team know that Chuck is prone to exaggeration, that Chuck may be prone to misstatements. So Chuck had to make sure his colleague knew, hey, you know what? What we said was exactly accurate, and here's what I told him. Now, why would Chuck say that? Well, the reason, because I don't care what Chuck thinks he said. What the media reported that Chuck and Nancy said was that Trump had agreed to forget the wall in exchange in a deal for granting amnesty or whatever, letting the DACA kids, the Dreamers, stay. And the White House has been pushing back on that all morning. Trump has been pushing back personally on it from Florida after he landed at Fort Myers Airport or thereabouts to participate in Florida aid. And welcome back, my friends. Rush Limbaugh, talent on loan from God. Grab audio sound by number 4. We need to hear from Nancy in all this. This was this morning on Capitol Hill. Nancy Pelosi held her weekly press briefing during the Q&A. A sycophantic reporter said, do you trust the President of the United States? And should the Dreamers trust him? So in other words, see, these people are believing that Trump made a deal, and Chuck and Nancy somehow at the White House brought Trump around. The Dreamers are okay. They're going to allow it in, and Trump's not going to do the wall. But the reporter says, see, the reporter's not sure. They're too happy. You sure you can trust Trump? Do you think the Dreamers should trust Trump?
I do trust that the president is sincere in understanding that the public supports, that overwhelmingly the public supports not sending these young people back. It was interpreted by some that we had a deal on the bill, but that wasn't on the package. That wasn't the case. We had an agreement to move forward, in our view, with the DREAM Act as the basis for how we protect the Dreamers, and for further discussions on what provisions relating to the border might be in an accompanying bill or whatever as we go forward. So I trust the president in that regard.
See, I love this. Of course I trust the president. 2 days ago, she hated Trump. She's out there saying the most despicable, horrible things in the world about it. She trusts him now. And I'm sure you Trumpists think that's because Trump is so clever and he makes everybody like him. So the drive-by guy was undoubtedly disappointed because he wanted her to say, no, we don't trust this guy. He's a pig. You saw the Billy Bush tape. The guy's a pig. We hate Trump. No, we don't trust Trump, but we're working on behalf of the... That's what the reporter wanted to hear. So the reporter didn't get what he wanted.